Okay, so is everyone here? Class managers, kindly check the attendance.
Teacher, for the boys, it's John De Fruelda, Denson Aracion, and Ace Villana.
Ruelda, Oracion, and Villena. And how about for the girls?
And then for the girls teacher are Angelica and Gabby Olano.
I think it's just Angelica. Gabby is already entering. I don't know for Ace. I was just talking to him earlier. Yeah. I think he's not feeling well, but I don't know. I guess I'm still expecting him later on. Everyone, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, teacher Lorenzo.
Okay, so with that, there, Ace is here. Okay, so with that, we'll just continue our discussions. So for today, I think we're already done with our first part of lesson 1, right? Rather, lesson 1 in general, we're already done, right? So we already discussed the if statements that are mentioned in lesson 1. Okay, so for today, we're going to proceed with lesson 2. There. Okay, so for our lesson 2, this is going to be if, then, else, if, and then else. Okay, so I hope you understood that. So if, then, else, if, and then else. And then we have the select case statement. Okay, so that is our topic for lesson 2. Okay, there is Angelica Joy. Okay, so for our lesson today, our objective is first to enumerate the forms of if statements. Second is to differentiate the if, then else, if, else from select case statement. Next is to determine the VB syntax of the different if statements and create the form design with the application of if statements. Okay, so but first, before we tackle that, we already discussed some of the if statements last lesson, right? So what can you remember of what if statements can you remember from the previous lesson? Anyone? The first one is the, yes, Jana? Again, you don't have sound. Again? You didn't have sound? Okay, there. So the first one is the if-then statement. Okay, so that is correct. Okay, so for the second one, is Jerome.
Teacher, we also have the if-then-else statement.
Okay, so we have the if-then-else statement, and the last one, yes, Gabby.
Share the if then else using both conditional and logical operators.
Okay, so we have the if-then-else using both conditional and logical operators. Okay, so those are our three if statements that we discussed last time. Okay, so first is the if then, second is the if then else, and the third one is if then else using both relational and logical operators. Okay, so how about for the syntax, right? So with these if statements, we are following a certain syntax when we are going to code them, right? So in the case of if then, how are we following the syntax? Yes, John.
Teacher, for the if then, I think it's if, then the condition, then, and after that the VB expression, then we would end if.
Okay, so that is correct. So for the if then, it is going to be the if and then the statement or the condition and then the then. Okay, so if, then the condition, then, and below that is the VB expression. In other words, our output. And then that is and if. Okay, so the first syntax here is there, if, then the condition, and then the VB expression, and then we end if. Okay, so in every if condition, there's always an end if. Don't forget that. And in this case, it is just the condition and the VB expression. As to where, if a statement here is correct or the condition here is met, okay, there is going to be a certain output. But what if the statement or the condition is false? What's happening here? Yes, David.
Nothing happens.
Okay, so nothing will happen because there is no secondary option to the condition. Okay, so the only thing that is being accepted here, or the only way that there's going to be an output, is if the statement or the condition is going to be true. Okay, and how about the if then else? So what is the syntax for this one? Okay, yes, Jeremiah.
Teacher, I think it's if condition, and then it's then after that is VB expression, and after that it's else, and after that it's VB expression, and last one is end if.
Okay, so for the if then else, so that's correct. So first is of course our if expression, our if statement, and then the condition. Okay, so for this if statement, so if then else. Okay, so that is where it got its name. So if then else, and then the difference between here is there is an else. Okay, so meaning in the condition, there is going to be an output either if it is true or false. So if the condition here is true, so it will go to the first option or the first VB expression. But if the answer here is false, the expression that it will display is the second one. That is because that is why there is an else. So if this is condition is going to be false or true, so if this is true, it is going to do this condition. Else, it will go to the second option. Okay, so is that clear? And for the last one, we have the if then else using both relational and logical operators. So what is the syntax for this one? Yes, Dumas.
Sure, the syntax is if condition, then VB expression, then else, then VB expression again, and then end it.
You're missing something there. So we are using both relational and logical operators, right? So there is an extra condition there. Okay, so how are we going to put it? Can you tell us again what was your syntax?
Sure, my syntax is the if condition, then VB expression, then else, then VB expression, and then end it.
Okay. So part of that is true. Okay, so the only thing missing there is there is a logical expression. Okay, so there is supposed to be two conditions. Okay, so that is the difference between the if then else and then if then else using both relational and logical operators. Okay, so there happens to be, okay, so it is very much similar to the if then else, but with this one, we have two conditions. So condition one, condition two. So it is going to be those are the relational operators. That is what it's going to use. And then for the logical, we are using the and. Okay, so that is why it is using both relational and logical operators. Okay, so again, these are our syntax. So for the if then, if condition, then VB expression. For the if then else, if condition, then first VB expression, else second VB expression. And for the third one, so if then else using both relational and logical operators. So if condition and another condition, then first VB expression, else second VB expression. Okay, so a little clue, these two are pretty much alike when it comes to the composition. The only difference for the using both relational and logical, so it has two conditions. Okay, so that is going to be your clue there. Okay, and those are the if statements we discussed last time. Okay, so the first one, okay, so we had an activity, right? So it's going to be with the use of if then else, and then the if then else using both relational and logical operator. Okay, so can someone explain what we did in this example here? Okay, so the program in here is the user will input a number. It will determine if the number is greater than 100 or less than 100. Okay, can someone explain what is going on in this code here? Okay, so you can explain step by step what happens here. Okay, yes, David.
Okay, so first off, so the condition is if my number is greater than 100, If the statement is true, then label to dot text is equal to the number is greater than 100. And if the statement is false, then the output will be the number is less than 100. If you see in the example given at the left side, the first the first the first window has 126, which is greater than 100. So the number is greater than 100. That will be the output. Otherwise, or else, at the second window, the number is 26. So it is less than 100. So the output will be the number is less than 100. That's all.
Okay, so that is correct. Okay, so what happened here is first, of course, okay, so don't skip our variables. Okay, so when we're going to talk about the code, so of course, we are going to declare our variables as an integer and then assign the equated control, which is the text box 1, to our variable. Okay, so in that way, the variable is accepting a value. Okay, so next here is what David already explained. So the condition is my number is greater than 100. So that is going to be the condition. So if that condition is correct or true, so it will go to the first VB expression, which is the output is going to be the number is greater than 100. Else, if this is false, the output is going to be the second VB expression, which is number is less than 100. Okay. So next, okay, so that is what is going on in this code. Okay, so any questions? Okay, next one. Okay, so next one is the output is going to be the user will input a number, and if the number is equal to 7, so it will either display congratulations, you win a lucky prize, or sorry, you did not win any prize. Okay, so what is happening in the code here? Yes, Aguado
Teacher
and
first,
Margaret.
teacher first, we're going to declare our my number as an integer. Then we will assign my number as text box one dot text. Then if my number is equal to 7, if it's true, then in text box to the text it will show congratulations, you win a lucky prize. Then if it's false, in the text box 2, it will show sorry, you did not win any prize.
Okay, so that is correct. Okay, so in here, there, so variables are declared and the variable is handed its value, so which is from text box 1. Okay, and then in the condition, so what she said, the my number should be equal to 7. Okay, so that is going to be the condition. And okay, so looking at our example here, this one, so the input was 7. So looking back at our condition, the number that the variable is looking for to be equal is 7. So therefore, the value here is going to be true, thus displaying our first VB expression. But looking at our second example, so the input number was 9. And then if we're looking back to our condition, so my number is equals to 7. So that is already false. Okay, and we will skip already this VB expression because it is false. So we will go already to the second one, which is, sorry, you did not win any prize. Okay, so that is what's going on in the if then else statement code in this one. Okay, next. So we're just going through to what you did in your activity, right? So this is which is related to what you did. Okay, so next is the if then else using both conditional and logical operators. Okay, so looking at our program, so the user will input a number and his age. Okay, so there is going to be two inputs. So number and then age. Okay, and if a number is greater than 100 and the age is greater than 60, it will either display, congratulations, you win a lucky prize, or sorry, you did not win any prize. Okay, so kindly explain what goes on in this code here. Anyone? Okay, so this is, there's actually just a little difference from the previous if statement, as you can remember. Okay, you can just go through the coding one by one in here. Yes, Jerome.
Teacher, first of all, we are going to declare two variables, which is the my number and my age as integer. And then next, we are going to set the two variables into its certain value or control, which is my number my number is equal to textbox1.text and my age is equal to textbox2.text. And then for the conditions, if my number is greater than 100 and my age is greater than 60, and then if both conditions are met, then the computer will perform the first action, which is congratulations, you win a lucky prize. And if one out of two conditions are not met, then the computer will display, sorry, you did not win any prize.
Okay, so that is correct. Okay, so the declaration of two variables. So since they are both integers, so you can just write it this way. So you can just add comma. So if you have multiple variables, which are all of them are integer, so you can just do it this way, and this goes to other data types. Okay, not just integer. So as long as they are the same data types, you can declare them this way. So my number, comma, my age. Okay, and then assign them to their respective control, which is accepting a value. And then looking at our condition, so what he said earlier, first condition, my number is greater than 100, then my age is greater than 60. So if both conditions are both true, it will go to the first VB expression. Okay, but since we are using the AND logical operator, right? Remember, the conditions there is if both statements are true. That is when it is only going to be true. But if either one of these statements are false, either one is false, it will go already to the second VB expression, which is sorry, you did not win any prize. Okay, so that is our first if then else using both conditional and logical operator statement. Okay, so looking at the example here, so the first example in this window, so enter number. So he entered, the user entered 170. Okay, and then looking at our conditions, okay, so the first condition, 100. So is the number or my number greater than 100? So the input here is 100 and that is going to be false. Okay, so already we have a false statement and then we have an AND logical operator. For the second statement, it is 70. So 70 is greater than 60. So that is true, but still we already have a false statement, which means the answer here is already false, thus skipping the first option, displaying the second VB expression. Okay, is that clear? And then for this one, okay, so there is a little bit of special condition here. So who can explain this code here? Yes, Pampilo.
Teacher, we will declare my age as integer and we will also declare answer as string. Teacher, we will assign my age as text box 1 that text and answer as text box 2 that text. Then teacher, my age is greater than or equal to 18 and answer must be yes. Then teacher, if both condition is true, then it will display congratulations, you can vote. But if one of the condition is false, then it will display sorry, you cannot vote.
Okay, so that is correct. Okay, so looking at our example here, so that is our example output. So the two text boxes, they have different inputs that they are going to accept. So the first one is age, so automatically that is integer, and then second one is it is an answer. Is it yes or no? So if we're going to use a word, automatically in our declaration of variable, we are using the string data type. Okay, so that is what happened here. So since they are different, so integer and string, we cannot write them as, for example, my age, comma, answer. Okay, because they are in a different data type. Okay, and next what happened is we assign them to their respective control, thus giving them value. And then we will look already to our example. So our first example is this one. So the first input is enter your age. So in here we have our condition. So my age is equal or greater than 18. Second condition is the answer string should be yes. Okay, so in the first condition, in here, so the enter age is 15. And looking at our first condition, the answer that they're looking for is either equal or greater than 18. Okay, So since 15 is lower than 18, so this makes this statement false. And then looking at the second answer, so the answer is no. So the string should be equal to yes in this example. So the answer here was no. So looking there, it didn't meet the condition. So again, this is going to be false. Okay, so if the answer is both false, so the answer is of course false. In the end, logical operator. Thus, skipping this first VB expression, there we have our sorry you cannot vote. Okay, which is the output in here. Okay, and then at our second example, so in the second example, the first input was 19. So looking at our condition, so is it true? Yes. So my age is greater than 18, which is 19. So this one is true. Second input, the string is yes. So is it equal to the second condition? So that is correct. So both statements are true, meaning the answer is going to be true. Thus, our output is going to be congratulations, you can vote. Okay, which is going to be right here. Okay, so that is how we are constructing our if then else using both conditional and logical operators. Okay, any questions? That was for our last activity. Okay, now moving on. Okay, so in here we have an example flowchart structure, right? So who can you still remember this flowchart structure? What is the name? Yes, Garing.
Teacher, case structure.
Garing.
Teacher, case structure.
And again.
Case structure. Case
Okay, so
flow
this one
chart.
is the case structure. Okay, so okay, you may lower your hand. Okay, so whereas in case structure, we are following certain conditions, and regarding to those conditions, will we have a certain output. Okay, so in here, we have first case, second case, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Okay, so the otherwise or the last option, that is still a condition. So in here, we have a total of 6 conditions. Okay, so that is what's going on in the case flowchart structure. So the first case, if that is the one that appeared already, it will have a certain output. Okay, so next is we have this flowchart structure is used to ask the computer to perform an action specified by the VB expression. If the condition is true, but the condition is false, no action will be performed. So this is still talking about the if statement. But a certain addition here, this structure has 4 different forms. Okay, so actually, in the previous lesson, we don't actually have just 3 if statements or 3 structure of if statements. So we actually have 4. So the first one is the if then. Second is the if then else. Third is if then else using both relational and logical operators rather. And the last one is the if then else if else. Okay. So it was followed by, or there is an else if inserted in the then, and else. Okay, so there is an else if. Okay, so what is its difference from the other? Okay, so first is the if then else if else statement. So I almost stuttered there. So if then else if else statement. Okay, so this control structure may evaluate all given dimension. In addition, each statement may also compute entirely different dimensions. Okay, so the syntax here is if, then, and then we have the else if followed by more else ifs. Okay, so if the previous one we have the if, just the if condition, then VB expression, and then else. Oops, sorry. Okay, there. Else, then the other VB expression. So in this one, we only have two other options for our output. But looking at our example syntax for the if then, else if, else. Okay. So in the first one, we have of course, we have the if, then, and then our condition. And of course, our VB expression. So what if this condition, the first condition is false? So if this one is false, okay, right? Automatically in the last one, if the in the condition, if the answer is false, the first expression is skipped, and then automatically giving the second VB expression as our answer. But with this one, we are still going to have another condition. So else if another condition. So if that another condition is still not met, it will just go on and on. So if another condition is also false, so it will skip this VB condition, else if another condition. Okay, so you can add more than two else ifs. Okay, so if you're just going to have either one or two VB expressions as your output, so you can just use an else if. An if then else statement. But if you're going to look at multiple conditions and have multiple answers or VB expressions as your output, you're going to use the else if. Whereas you can add more conditions without using actually a logical operator, right? So if you get confused, you're going to just use a logical operator if both statements should be true. Okay, so but for this one, so in case the other condition is not met, you will have more conditions to look at. Okay, so this is the if then else if statement. Okay, so next we have is a program here. So we are going to use the if then else if statement. Okay, so in here, so we're going to follow the if condition, then the VB expression. And then next is the else if condition, then another expression. Okay, so in here, the output is going to be for the average Mark. Okay. So the first condition is at least 80. Okay. So we already have our, okay, so give me an, or rather give me a variable which we can use in this one. So we are looking for a mark. Therefore, our variable is going to be what? So it's going to be either grade or mark. Okay, so that is what we're going to use. Okay, and then looking at our first expression or first condition. Okay, so first condition is at least 80. So this is what is going to go here. So what should we put? At least 80. So what is going to be our condition? Yes, TJ?
Teacher, if mark is greater than or equal to 80, then the teacher, what's the text? Teacher, is it text box? Text
We're not
box
using
one,
yet
the
the
text.
text box. We're not using yet the text box. So
Only the if
just the
mark.
display.
Teacher, if mark is greater than or equals to 80,
Then the remarks is going to be
teacher, then the mark is going to be
okay. So first expression or first condition rather. So in here, on the first condition, so mark is should be greater than or equal to 80. Okay, so that is our first condition. For the second one, yes, David.
If mark is greater than or equal to 60, then it will display B.
Okay, so we're actually looking at two conditions. This one. Yes, Jerome.
Teacher, if mark is greater than or equal to 60 and less than 80, then the remarks will be B.
Okay, so correct. So if mark, second condition, mark is greater than or equal to 60. So that's the meaning of the at least 60. And less than 8. Okay, so that is the second condition. So expression is going to be B. How about for the third one? Yes, Papilo.
Teacher, if mark is greater than or equal to 40 and less than 60, then it will display C.
Okay, so that's correct. So if mark is greater than or equal to 40 and less than 60. Okay, so the answer is going to be C. And then for the else, okay, so we're just going to leave it as else. Okay, because that is the last option already. So the last option already is going to be D. Okay, so the first condition, mark is greater than or equal to 80. So if his mark is greater than or equal to 80, all of his grade will automatically be A. And then for the second condition, okay, so let's say that this one is false. Okay, it will go to the next condition, which is the next else if. So the next else if is the mark should be greater than or equal to 60 and less than 80. Okay, so we always include this to have a limiter. We have for the limiter to look so that it will not include this expression or this condition. Because if we only put greater than or equal to 60, so greater than 60, that will still include anything that is greater than 80. So we include this second condition so that it limits itself to until less than 80. Okay, so let's say that this condition is also false. Then we'll go to the next else if. So the next else if is going to be, the next condition is going to be mark is greater than or equal to 40 and less than 60. So that is what is going to be here. Okay. So if that is also false, okay, so since we didn't have another condition here, we go to the else, thus displaying the default expression. Okay, so this is your already last resort as your answer. If all of these expressions or conditions were not met. Okay, so any questions here? Okay, so that is just uh, deriving our conditions for this program. Okay, so in here we have the example code. Okay, so everyone take note already of the code. And David, can you open your Visual Studio? Okay, so tell me when it is opened already. Okay. So in here, you're going to try to make this code here. So in here we have a sample output. So it's going to be enter number. So that is already one text box. And then the grade. So for the grade, that is going to be as an output. Okay, and then going to our show grade. That is where we'll put our code. Okay, so looking again here. So same thing that you did in the example earlier or the example program earlier. So for the first option, so at least 80. So it is going to be first condition, the mark is going to be greater than or equal to 80. Okay, so that is this one. So second condition, so at least 60 and below 80. So the condition is going to be mark is greater than or equal to 60 and mark is below 80. Okay, and then for the third condition, so first condition here is at least 40. So in here, it should be greater than or equal to 40 and below 60. So the mark should always be below 60. So between 60 and 40. Okay. And all of the remarks is going to be either A, B, C, or D. Is that clear? David, you can open already.
You're still sharing this. You're still sharing screen. I cannot stay.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Okay, there, you may go ahead. So others, take note as well of the
Is that okay?
yes. Great. Great.
Oh.
Okay, so the code goes inside the check button. Okay, so just wait a moment there. Can you double check double click again to check? There. So that is wait, don't include the public class. It's the private sub.
Pardon?
Just just the private sub. Don't include the public class if you're going to erase.
Wait, I'm going to this, okay.
There. Okay, so what we're going to do is, okay, so try to do it yourself. So the program is going to be, it will enter one number there, marked as integer. Integer. Okay, first statement. So at least 80. So what is our condition for at least 80?
Wait, okay. Oh, okay.
There. Then the text box 2 will display there. Okay, and after that, actually, that is where we're going to put the else if. There. So in the else if, okay, there. Okay, then the VB expression. Okay, then let's add another one. Oh, wait, for your second there, you're missing something there.
Wait.
Try to put
Oh,
space.
okay. Wait, pardon?
Okay, continue. There.
Okay, now that's it.
Okay, so for the else, that is going to be the last expression, which is the answer will be in default D. Of all, if all other options or conditions are not met. Okay, so try and run your code. Okay, so try first the first expression. So at least 80. 85 there. So the grade is A. Then how about changing it to 76? There, so the answer should be there, B. And then change it to 55. There, it should be C. And then change it to 39. There, it is going to be D. Okay, so that is how we are performing the else if conditions. Okay, so they are just multiple other options to multiple conditions. Okay, so if we're going to use more than one condition, we are going to use the else, if then else if else. Okay, so hopefully everyone got the code. Okay, so you may stop share first. Thank you, very good. And then, okay, so let me just go through the next one. Okay, so this one, this is going to be okay, so screenshot this and try it yourselves, okay? So this is still if then else if else. Screenshot this, and this is what you're going to try yourselves. Okay, so the program here is create a program that will enter a number. So it will determine that if that number is 0, positive, or negative. Okay, and the next one. So this next one is a select case statement. So this is pretty much the same as the if else, if then else if else. So this control structure only makes a decision on one expression or dimension. Okay, so it will only make one decision on each expression. So this is preferred when there are many existed conditions. Okay, so it will be focusing directly on that specific expression. Unlike the one earlier for for our example as if then else if, okay, which is still looking at the first expression. So depending on that expression, will it go to the next condition? So for this next one, so it will go directly to the expression on each case. Okay, so first is the test expression, and then case expression list 1. Okay, and then there is multiple VB statements. Okay, so each case there are multiple, or there can be multiple VB statements. Okay, so each one of these case will perform multiple expressions or statements. Okay, so but still this is pretty much the same as the if then else if else. Okay, so let's have an example first. So in here we have an example of an output, which is we are looking for the grade. So there is going to be a 0 to 49 range of 50 to 64, 65 to 79, 80 to 94, and then the else. So again, for the else, that is our last option. Okay, so that is what it looks like in the program example. Okay, so what would it look like in the code? So this is how we are coding with the case. Okay, so we are using the select case statement, not already the if statement. Okay, so in here we have the, yes, Floresca?
Teacher, I accidentally clicked.
Okay. So let's continue. So in here, there is a case where a condition is having this one. So 0 to 49. So meaning, if ever a case is inputted from 0 to 49, there is going to be an output of need to work harder. Okay, so it's pretty much the same as the if-then-else-if-else statement. Whereas we can look at this as separate conditions. Okay, so is that understood? So let's try this one out. So let me just be the one. Let's just try this quickly. Okay, so we have our sample form. Then let's just add our labels and our buttons. Then our text boxes. The first one is enter grade and then our remark. So in here, we'll code in the show result button, and then same as to what we did earlier. So we'll declare grade as integer. Then grade is equals to text box 1 text. And then instead of using if statement, we are going to use select case. So select case, which is for the grade. Okay, so we are going to select the case for the variable grade. So that is what we're going to put here. Okay, so there, it's already asking for the first case. So 0 to 49, and then the text box 2, the text is equals to what was our first remark. So it will be need to work harder. Okay, so that is our first case. Second case, $50 to $64. Output is average. Next is 65 to 79. Output here is above average. Everyone, make sure you are taking note of the code. Next is 80 to 94, which is good. And then last case. For the last case, we're going to use else. Is excellent. Okay, in here, it is pretty much similar to the if, then else, else if. If, then else, if, else. Okay, so with every condition, we're just using case. Okay, so case of 0 to 49. So whenever we input 0 to 49 digits, so it will display need to work harder. So same goes for the other outputs. And then else, if nothing else were, if none of the conditions were met here, it will just result to the excellent. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so let's enter grade. So let's say, let's have an average remark. So let's say it's 55. So 55 show result, that's average. 81 show result, that is good. And more than 94, 95, so that is excellent. 0 show result, that still goes through the 0 to 49. Yes, Floresca?
Teacher, I think the form is not displayed in the share
Oh,
screen.
sorry. Can you see it now? Okay, so again, let's have the example. So let's say that it is more than 94. So 95 show result. So that is excellent, which is the last case. Okay, let's try 81. So that is in good because it is 80 to 94. 72. That is above average. Then 55, average. And then let's try 0, show result. So need to work harder. Okay, so it is working here. So it is pretty much similar to the if, then, else, if, else statement. Okay, so any questions? None? Okay, so last. Okay, so take note on only this last part. So you're going to try it yourself. So in this part, you are going to have this output. Okay, so first the conditions. So of course, you're going to use case. And then, so it should be, so if either 95 to 100, that is excellent. 90 to 94, very satisfactory. 85 to 89. 80 to 84. 85 to 79, and then else. Okay, so what is the difference here? Okay, so this is pretty much the same as to what we did in the case. But, okay, so there's a but. We are going to input 1, 2, 3 grades. Okay, so all of those grades, we will compute their average. Okay, so there's already 2 functions here. So first is to put in the grade, input our grade, and then get the average. Okay, so that's already 1. And the second one, from the average, that is where it is going to get its remarks, which is from in here. Okay, so you need to figure out this yourselves. Okay, so trying it out in your Visual Studio. Okay, so again, let me explain what you will do here. So first is you will get the average of 3 subjects. Okay, and then the average will go here. And then from this text box, you will now use the case. So for the case, this is what you will refer to as to what will display in the remarks. Okay, so any questions? None? Okay, have you taken the code? You copied the code? Okay, did you screenshot this one? Okay, so if that's done already, so that's all for today, everyone. So goodbye.
See you and thank you, Teacher Lorenzo.
Thank you.
Goodbye.